Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today virtually for the 2021 Application Cycle Workshop for the Local Initiatives and Transportation Alternatives Program administered by the Long Beach TPA. First, I'd like to start off with some staff introductions so you'll know who the point people will be for the TPA and FDOT throughout the grant cycle. First, my name is Jason Price. I'll be the local initiatives point of contact. And within the TPA, we also have Alyssa Frank. She will be handling the Transportation Alternatives Program. And Alyssa, if you want to say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very excited to be working in this new capacity with you guys.
And she's our bicycle and pedestrian coordinator. So anything of that nature, you can direct to her or myself, and we can work out any of the questions that you might have. We also have Maya Williams. She is also on the line with us, and she is our FDOT point of contact for the LAT program, the locally administered projects. And if you want to say hello, if it's possible.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So for the format of today, I'll just go over what we'll cover. We'll go over the program overview in terms of the programming, what are eligible projects, the required documentation to provide, the scoring criteria, and then we'll review the online app. We'll go through an online application tutorial and how to submit an application, and then we'll review a little more detail of the scoring. So that'll be the format for this morning's workshop. So to begin, the local initiatives and transportation alternatives programs achieves the goals and objectives of the TPA's 2020-45 long-range transportation plan that was adopted in December of 2019. And you'll see throughout the workshop that the LI and TA scoring reflects the goals and objectives of the LRTP. And you'll see the images at the bottom, those are the 5 goals that are reflected in, that are part of the long-range transportation plan, and they are preserve, safe, efficient, connected, and multimodal. The TPA also adopted their first Vision Zero action plan in April 2019, and we've taken some of those elements and incorporated them both in the long range local initiatives and transportation alternatives program scoring to incorporate the bike and pedestrian corridors identified in the Vision Zero action plan. So if you're an applicant and you're planning to implement your project via the LAT program, you're required to have an ADA transition plan in place. So what you see on the screen here, there's a website for more information to answer any questions regarding having an ADA transition plan. In addition, we have staff on board, Melissa Booth, our public relations manager, that can also be contacted for additional information. Let's review some of the important dates for this year's grant cycle. The first is the pre-application meeting, which is required. We've set up some dates between November 2nd and January 29th. We have specific dates already designated, and we send out through our listserv through application called Calendly, where you could block a 1-hour time for specific days. And I'll go over those, I'll mention those dates here. It's November 3rd and 4th, and then the following week, November 2nd, 12th and 13th, and then a few weeks after in December, December 1st. So of those 5 dates, there's about 5 slots for each of those days that you can book a pre-application meeting, and that'll be a one-on-one meeting between the TPA, FDOT, and the applicant, and you can bring in all of your questions about your project and get any of the questions you have answered. Following that is the application deadline. That's February 26, 2021. After that application deadline, there'll be some follow-up emails between FDOT, the TPA, and the applicant as part of the vetting process to answer any questions and get all the necessary documentation. Once that's finalized, we'll get a final ranking for the project. FDOT will return an eligibility determination, and the projects that are finally ranked and that will be funded will be prioritized in our list of priority projects and brought to our board in July of 2021. I'll go over some of the program details between both of the programs. First, as the purpose for the local initiatives program, that's more for advancing lower cost non-regional significant transportation projects. And there's a total amount of $20 million for this grant program, and there's a maximum of $5 million per project. The Transportation Alternatives Program is a smaller pot of money of $3.1 million, and that's specifically for non-motorized infrastructure and safe routes to school. Both of these programs are funded through Surface Transportation Block Group funding. Some other details about both of these programs. For eligibility, you see for local initiatives, it covers a wider range of projects that include complete streets, transit capital like electric buses, or turnkey contracts, and also non-motorized infrastructures that include sidewalks, bicycle facilities, pedestrian facilities, shared use paths, and also freight efficiencies for airports, railways, and truck movement. On the other side, the transportation alternatives, you can see it's more honed in for non-motorized travel. That includes sidewalks and bicycle infrastructure, traffic calming elements, safe routes to school, and the other elements listed here, including historic preservation and TOD development. Here's a short list to summarize both of the programs. As I mentioned, the maximum amount for local initiatives per project is $5 million, and it has a minimum requirement to apply of $250,000. And the design funds are either local or from the TPA. Here, because this is a 5-year time frame for this program, the design funds would be available in this grant cycle in 2024, and the construction funds would be in 2026. As in comparison, in contrast to the Transportation Alternatives Program, which is $1 million, has the same minimum requirement to apply of $250,000. However, the design funds are covered by the local applicants, so these funds are for construction only. And you'll see the design year is 2022 and the construction is 2024 within the 3-year time frame for that program. I'll now go over the required documents to submit an application. First is the application itself. That's on our website. We'll go through our website and where to find this information. But you'll download and complete the application, sign it, and upload it as part of the application package. In addition to that, there's a local map, which is an aerial map of the area for the proposed project, a typical section of the existing and the proposed facilities, along with the right-of-way ownership verification and a resolution of support from the facility owners or the local jurisdiction. And that'll be due April 30th, which is about 60 days after the close of the application deadline. Also, a detailed cost estimate and spreadsheet that we have on our website that you can download and complete. And there's 2 options for the cost estimate, and we'll review that later on in the workshop. There's also a commitment letter for administering agencies that are administering projects on others' behalf. and that is February 26, 2021, and that'll be due at the application deadline. There's also photographs for the project before and after, and letters of support or public outreach is also due at the time of the application deadline. Now we'll go through the application walkthrough.
That's not sure. Do you want to start from the website?
Yep, so
Let me share it. Okay.
So what you see on the screen here is the TPA website. And at the top, there's a banner that says funding, and through funding, you'll see 2 drop-downs for either local initiatives or transportation alternatives. Depending on the program you want to apply for, you would click on one or the other. Here you see before you is the local initiatives program. And this screen, there's a few links here to point out to you. There's the Local Initiatives Program Overview. That's a PDF document. It's several pages and give you a good overview of the entire program in terms of important dates, the scoring criteria, the application checklist. It's a good thing to download and review before applying. Now, also you'll see further down from there, submit an application. And submitting an application, when you click on that, it'll take you to another website, another page on our website, and this is where you would begin the process of downloading the necessary information, including the LI application form. When you click on it, it should be a direct download, so it won't pop up into a separate screen, it'll automatically download, so that way you can have it on your local computer, complete it, and go through it, sign it, and then return it. So just go through the application itself. You'll see that it's some of the basic information to start in terms of giving your project a title, who is applying, and what you would like to build, who owns the right of way for the project, which is an important piece to understand not only where it's being built, but who owns the right of way of where it's going to be built. And then the type of project that you're building, just to ensure that you're applying, you have a project that is eligible, and who's doing what. So who is administering both the design, the construction, and the construction engineering and inspection. And this is a critical piece to identify, so you know who's administering the project and what other resolutions or documentation you would need to provide. Continuing along with in the application, you see there's the basic applicant information, the project location itself, and the qualifying activities for funding. And this is what I meant by eligible activities. And you can find here, there's a blue highlighted link that you can click on, or to get additional information, or see that the checkboxes, you would select one of these in terms of what type of project you're applying for. Next is the project typical section information. Typically, these are all infrastructure-driven projects, so there'll be some existing conditions on the roadway, and then some proposed conditions of what the roadway would look like after the project is implemented. You would identify those elements of the project and how they'll change the roadway. And you can see there's bicycle, pedestrian, motorized, median, and swale, curb. All of these elements, if they apply, please fill out those parts as part of the application. And the right-of-way and ownership information, documentation, and then the scope of work. And here there's a few checkboxes, but also some free space for you to kind of elaborate on these elements of the project, which helps us evaluate the project and understand what's being proposed. And this, as you see, there's there's plenty of space for you to fill out and answer these questions. And one of the last pieces, public involvement and support. describing what kind of support and outreach was done for the project. And also project maintenance, who will maintain the project after it's constructed. And so here you'll see the cost estimate. These are the two links to download the cost estimate sheets directly in the application. You can also find this on our website as well. These links to determine if the project will be administered on the state highway or off the state highway. That'll determine which cost estimate sheet that you'll download and complete. I believe that's the last part where you would then sign it, date it, print it out, and return it to us as part of the application project. Return it as part of the application package. So now we'll transition back to the PowerPoint presentation, and I'll review the two options for project implementation. And there's two ways to implement a project, and that is the applicant designs and constructs the project off the state highway, or the other option is only for local initiatives and subject to FDOT approval of FDOT designs and constructs the project off the state highway system, or FDOT designs and constructs the project off the state highway system. There's also transit projects. And when there's two transit agencies within Palm Beach County that are eligible for these funds, and that's SFRTA or Tri-Rail and Palm Tran, the county transit provider. Both of these have been successful in the past, and their funds are flexed funds through the FTA. We also have a state road modifications program that was that we developed last year for some of these projects. And for this, if you have ideas for infrastructure projects on the state roads that may go through your municipality, feel free to fill out an application, bring those ideas to us in the pre-application meetings, and we'll help you through the process of applying through the local initiatives application process to understand the project, submit those ideas to FDOT, and find a way to fund those projects if they rank well, or depending on the funding as well. So there is another alternative to local initiatives and transportation alternatives through the state road modifications. It may be a separate pot of funding to also facilitate building projects. So I'll continue with the required documents, and you can see at the top in the tabs, we'll go through all of these in terms of each element that is required for a complete application packet. The next one is the aerial map, and what we recommend is using the Palm Beach County GeoNav website. It has a wealth of information, and it's a good resource to zoom into your project, identify where you'd like to construct it, and get an aerial snapshot from there to submit as part of the application. Next is the typical section. We recommend using StreetMix. It's a free online resource where you could construct your typical section of existing and proposed improvements and be able to compare and contrast both of them and submit it pretty easily. So definitely consider StreetMix as a way to provide your typical section. The next is the right-of-way verification. For right-of-way verification, again, we're recommending using the Palm Beach County's website here for as a starting point. and the website here is listed on the right-hand side. And you'll be able to zoom in and get right-of-way information to provide as part of the application packet if you don't already have it within your local municipality. Next is the resolutions that are required. These are required 60 days afterward, after the application deadline. So once you submit the application, you would be able to submit these resolutions afterwards. So the first is a resolution from the facility owner that they support the project to be constructed on the facility as proposed and will fund operation and maintenance of the improvement, and support FDOT to administer and construct the project if FDOT is the lead. And also there's a resolution from the governing board to indicate there's some support for the project and where it's located. There's also a commitment letter that's required from the engineering or public works department of the administrating agency. And this is for if they will administer and construct the project on the facility as proposed if funded by the TPA. In certain cases, the administrating agency might not be the same as the applicant, as in the case of a local municipality that is having a project built through the county. So these letters help indicate the support for the project, or at least the commitment to deliver the project. Next, we'll get into the details of the cost estimate. You'll see, although there are two different cost estimates to download, however, the similarities between those two are there are participating items and non-participating items. And participating items are the reimbursable amounts that will be eligible for reimbursement through the grant program. And some items are not reimbursable, and those are the non-participating items that include work outside the limits of the project, relocation of utilities, removal of encroachments, and any infrastructure or facilities that are beyond standard equipment that you would typically see. So now we'll open up the cost estimate and we'll take a look at what it looks like, just to point out participating and non-participating items. So here what you see on the screen, it'll come back.
Okay, they can see.
So here you'll see on this cost estimate, there's two components, participating and non-participating. Now, there could be, although there's a cap of 5 million for local initiatives and 1 million for transportation alternatives, it's important to include all of the participating costs above and if it's beyond the total amount. It will be capped at 5 million, but it's just good to identify all of your participating costs. And this is the section that you would do that in under participating costs, and then non-participating costs is to the right of that. And through the vetting process, this will be reviewed and verified for participating and non-participating items, and that'll be done through the vetting process with FDOT. So there could be revisions to this after you apply.
Do you want to ask Maya if she has any other things she wants to say?
At this time, I'd like to ask Maya if there's any additional information that you might want to cover on the cost estimate sheets. Let's see if we can get her.
Not at this time, Jason. We just ask that the applicants ensure that they're completing the appropriate cost estimate with their application. For example, if it's there are two different cost estimates that are provided. So we just want to make sure that they are filling out the correct version, as one is administered by DOT and the other is LAP.
Right. And so Maya is our LAP coordinator, so those will be the locally administered projects that you would apply for LAP certification in advance of applying. Or you would reach out to FDOT and request their permission to administer the project on your behalf, and that would be the other cost estimate that you would complete. So after the cost estimate component, there's also photographs to submit. And so there'll be existing photographs of the location, as well as after the project is construction, we'd like to get photographs of the completed project to highlight on our website. We have a specific summary page for both of these programs that show you the before and after photos for projects that have already completed. And this year we've had quite a few LI projects, local initiative projects, going into construction this year. And for the Transportation Alternatives Program, we've had several projects already constructed and built and have photographs to that you can see on our website under the Transportation Alternatives Programs. At the very bottom, there's a summary of projects that'll show you all of the projects that have been funded through both programs. And Google Street View is a great resource. That's what we're recommending to go to use to get a screenshot of the existing facilities. And then possibly after they're completed. Now we'll go over the scoring system. So there is an online map as well. And then when you upload all of the application information and you hit the submit button after you upload all of those components, it'll take you to a scoring survey that will ask you another series of questions that'll help us understand more about the project and help us score the project. That particular survey is specifically designed to line up with the scoring system to help us understand what's being proposed and to provide it the correct amount of points. Here's a breakdown of the differences, comparison between the two programs and the scoring rubric that we are using for both of these programs. You can see by the color coding here, the scoring is designed in a way to ask you what is being proposed, where is it being proposed, and why. And you can see here that there's a little bit of a different breakdown between the two programs, but they both add up to 100, and this is an illustration of the differences between the two. Then I will walk through how to submit an application. So first, it's downloading the application and cost estimate. Looking at, we've provided on our website some supporting materials and examples for documents that you would be submitting. Submit the documents through our online link and then fill out the form for scoring, as I mentioned. And then we'll follow up with any applicants to clarify any questions or confirm that the documents have been submitted. Resources that we have on our website that are available for you as part of the application process is our Complete Streets Design Guideline, the Pedestrian Facilities Safety Study, the Vision Zero Action Plan that I mentioned, and the Greenways and Trailways Plan. And we have a link for our resources at the bottom of this presentation. And we'll also post this presentation so that you can refer back to that as well. So just to give you our contact information again, my name is Jason Price. I'll be doing the local initiatives program. I'll be your point of contact. Feel free to email or call me. And then Alyssa Frank will be our transportation alternatives point person. And listed here is her email and phone number. And lastly, FDOT, your FDOT contact is Maya Williams, and she'll be for the LAP program for local, as the local program administrator. So I'd like to invite Maya to give an overview of the local agency program.
Tell her we'll run the slides for her. We'll run the slides for her.
And we'll run the slides for you, Maya. So
Okay, excellent. All right. Well, good morning again, everyone. As Jason mentioned, I am Maya Williams-Gray. I am the Florida Department of Transportation, District 4 Local Program Administrator. I supervise the local program unit within the Program Management Office. With that position, I manage the local agency program, also known as LAP. Thank you. Which includes the responsibility of certifying local agencies to participate in LAP and facilitate training. Next slide, please. So what is LAP? The program was created as a method used for agencies to deliver federally funded projects. FDOT is the steward of the federal funds, such as the Transportation Alternative Funding and Localized Initiative Funding. Both of those are federal funding sources, and is responsible for the oversight of the funded projects on behalf of FHWA. Local agencies fund the local projects and are then eligible for reimbursement. So this is a reimbursement program. Next slide. Any government entity, and this is very important, any governmental entity other than the Department of Transportation who intends to administer a federal aid project must seek LAP certification. There are 2 certification options for local agencies to receive. One is a full certification. This is reserved for county government only. So this is one, for example, Palm Beach County has a full certification, which is renewed every 3 years. However, all other local agencies, other than the county, would receive a project-specific certification. This is renewed at the beginning of a new project. Next slide. Okay, District 4, in District 4, we certify in the functional areas of construction, design, that's the PS&E, and also with PS&E, the plan specification and estimates package, construction and construction administration, and only one procurement method, and that's construction. There's no reimbursement for professional services. That covers your design and CEI. So locals are responsible for that cost. And I believe you Jason mentioned that in his earlier presentation. Now, the department uses this certification process to determine whether local agencies are qualified to administer a federal aid project. To receive a certification, the agency must have a LAP project listed in the 5-year adopted work program. So I'll repeat that. To receive a certification, the agency must have a LAP project listed in the 5-year work program. That's one of the frequent asked questions we received in my office. So agencies that have projects already in the program, they have already received a certification for those projects. If you're not the county, you would receive a project specific. So as I mentioned before, that project specific would be granted at the award of a new project. So any projects that you all are proposing this application cycle, you would, if awarded, you would have to seek a new certification for it. All right. So with that being said, local agencies interested or seeking certification for the first time are those who have not participated in our program for more than 3 years should coordinate with the department prior to the application cycle to learn more about the local agency requirements. Therefore, prior to receiving a grant application award, the district can conduct an initial screening of the agency's internal controls. This initial screening will be done to determine whether the agency is eligible for certification. Now here you'll see a step process. This is just highlighting some of the steps involved in the certification process. During the certification process and initial screening, there are several assessments that are completed where the administering entity, so that's the local agency that's going to administer the project, would need to demonstrate their ability to comply with the certification requirements. This includes, but not limited to, Title VI compliance, ADA, grant management, fiscal accountability, procurement, and construction administration. We need to ensure that the agency is able to adhere to all the federal and state requirements as outlined in the LAP manual. Next slide, please. If an agency has concerns about their certification status or eligibility, I encourage you to contact my office. For more information regarding LAP certification and the program requirements, please feel free to review FDOT's LAP resources by visiting the links below. I provided links to our certification webpage as well as the LAP manual. There's computer-based training that's available 24/7. You all can take it at your leisure. And also to LAP forms where you'll find the federal regulations such as the FHWA's 1273 that's available that must be followed. So you all can start doing some research and learning more about our program. Next slide. If you have any questions or concerns regarding your status or the resources that have been provided, please feel free to contact my team and we'll be able to assist you. As always, my team and I are here to assist our local partners. Thank you for your attention, and I wish all agencies success this TAP and LI application cycle. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. So when you do the pre-application meetings, you will meet with us and Maya and other FDOT staff may be available, and we'll be able to go back and forth and answer questions about LAP, about the application process, and any of the required documentation. So
We'll take questions now, and we're gonna have Melissa. She'll call people.
okay.
So if they want to raise their hand.
Okay, we can take questions now. There's a raise hand function on the Zoom. Just when you hit the raise hand function, we're monitoring that area. So feel free to either type in a question or raise a hand, and you can ask it that way as well. We also have to interact with staff.
So I see Thomas Driscoll has a hand raised. Thomas, if I will allow you to talk if you can unmute yourself.
Thanks for your patience while we work through these.
Thomas, can you speak? It shows you unmuted, but we don't hear you.
Tell him to type out his question.
alternative, there's a chat box and you can type the question. That might circumvent the muting business. But we're gonna try.
Oh, there's no chat box.
Okay, Thomas, you are muted, and I just gave you permission again, so if you want to try. Shows as unmuted, but we don't see your microphone picking anything up on your end.
Is there anyone else? No. I guess we don't have a chat box.
No, okay, no chat box. Can we try the next? Is there any other questions? Maybe we can try and see.
Thomas, can you try calling in on another line and we can answer off the phone maybe? And in the meantime, take another question if there are any others.
You want to, oh,
So we do want to answer any questions that you might have. And we do have some time left as well.
okay. Well, let's go through the application submittal. And then if they have any more questions, then we can.
Okay,
So you want to do that?
and then the interactive now.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay, so we're gonna go through the application submittal web page.
I'll go quickly through it, the whole process. And I'll go through.
So this is our Transportation Alternatives Program page. So from here, when you want to submit an application, you would go to the Submit an Application, and there's a link right here. And we're going to walk through the application, and then we'll go back to the mapping tool. So to begin, you'll click on that link. Here's where you'll find the TA application form to download. You'll also find the locally administered project cost estimate. There's only a single cost estimate here because this is the only way to administer the projects is through the LAC program. So once you have the information that you need to upload, you'll click on that Submit an Application link here, and this will guide you through the application form.
And then you have to submit.
And so here's where you would choose the files that you would want to upload for each of the required documents. And that includes all of these, you know, the application itself, the aerial photo, the existing and proposed condition typical, the right-of-way ownership verification. Next is the governing board resolution, which is due later on, 60 days after, but if you had it, you could upload it then. In addition to letters of support, which are due at the time of the application deadline. And lastly, the engineering or public works commitment letter. And the very last one is the cost estimate. Oh, just one below that as well. Existing conditions, photographs of the existing conditions, and the resolution of approval from the local municipality. And so when you have all those documents uploaded and ready to submit, you'll hit that submit button and it'll redirect you to this page, which is the Transportation Alternatives Application Scoring. And you'll walk through this. There's about there's four sections here. And if you have the program overview in front of you and you looked at the scoring, you'll notice that going through these questions line up with what the scoring criteria are. So that's how this is designed. So you would go through, select these. And here you see our Vision Zero action plan elements. And I provided some links that you'll see and some static maps from our interactive map that show you the areas that are being asked about. And here are the pedestrian desires map, and these are from our long-range transportation plan. So as you move through these questions and identify which selection is appropriate for your application.
You want me to do it with this link?
Sure. So when you click on any of those links to answer these questions, it will take you to an ArcGIS online interactive map. And you'll see on the left-hand side of all the layers that are available, the ones that are highlighted here are the Tier 1 pedestrian sidewalk apps and the Tier 1 bicycle priority network. And these are from our long-range transportation plan. So with all of these layers, you'll see in parentheses LI or TA or both. And I've tried to identify or line these up with which ones apply to which programs. So you can click on and off any of these layers, zoom into the area and see if your project fits the criteria and answer the question. And this is also on our website. When you first go to the local initiatives or transportation alternatives program web pages, right below where the overview is, there's interactive map as a link, and you can click on the link there in addition to where we just navigated from in the survey.
Jason, can you mention the importance of federal aid eligible for local initiatives?
Yes, for local initiatives, those projects apply to the federal aid eligible network. And we have that identified here, so you know that for local initiatives projects, they should be on the federal aid eligible network, and that's what's illustrated here on the map.
Is there any more questions?
So we do have a question from Paola Mendoza. Paola, I'm gonna allow you to speak. If you could just unmute yourself, please.
Thank you. Good morning. The city of Boynton Beach, I work for the city of Boynton Beach. We've applied for grants a couple of times and been successful. And one of the tools that we use, I always keep referring back to the program overview. But it happens to be that when I click on it, there's nothing that comes up. And I wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of that. And if you are working on uploading that, because one of the things that I'm interested to talk about is all the actual scoring criteria and whether or not that's changed from last year. Just kind of try to wrap my head around, those things that we're gonna be scored. And I haven't heard anything about presentation, wondering if that's still the case. So if you do have that available, if you could talk a little bit about it, or if you could just make it available for us to have in the future. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we'll fix the link. And for the presentations, that was not last year, but the year before, where we invited each person in to do presentations. And we kind of retooled that to do one-on-one pre-application meetings that seem to work quite a bit better, because you get, we're only focused on the project that you bring forward in the pre-application meeting, or any ideas that you might have in terms of potential projects. So instead of the presentations, we're going in that route. So you can present the project and ask any questions directly with FDOT and TPA staff. And there is a distinction between the two programs in that transportation alternative projects are presented to the BT PAC at their regularly scheduled meetings. So there are still presentations that you would do for transportation alternatives,
But not for local initiatives then?
but not for local initiatives. However, regardless of either program, you would still sign up for a pre-application meeting.
Right, and we do have that already, okay.
Right, and so it's not necessarily a presentation, it's more of a discussion and a Q&A and just, working together to get all of, to answer your questions and provide you the guidance needed to submit a successful application and a complete application.
Okay.
And
As
this,
far as the scoring, yes. Can you
yeah, and
tell
so
me?
the scoring is really, it's an objective scoring system that we use, and we use that system and we bring, after the scoring is completed, we bring the final scoring to our technical advisory committee for local initiatives, and they'll approve the scoring, and then that'll move on to our governing board. Whereas transportation alternatives, we also score those, but the scoring is in addition to the bicycle trails and pedestrian advisory committee, they'll also see the presentations, provide their own independent ranking of the projects, and both of those rankings from the TPA and the BT PAC would go to the governing board for approval.
Okay. So, but the scoring that we are gonna be submitted and, the maximum points and all that we could get for local initiatives, that is gonna be included in that program overview that you're gonna work on uploading, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think that's all I have.
And if you have any other further questions on LI or TA, feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you very much.
So I do have a question. I got a question from Thomas Driscoll from the town of Jupiter. And Maya, this might be a question you can answer. On the cost for reimbursements for the transportation alternatives, if they have to reconstruct driveways within the right of way to make the adjoining sidewalk ADA accessible, is that a reimbursable cost? This is specific to a project on Riverside Drive.
Okay, so if they're going through transportation alternatives, there should not be any reconstruction. That is not an eligible scope, if you will. And if it's, repeat the question for me one more time. I just want to make sure I cover, because I think it was a two-parter.
Yeah, so on the cost of reimbursements for transportation alternatives, if they have to reconstruct the driveway and the right of way to make the adjoining sidewalk ADA accessible, is that cost reimbursable?
I think that's something we truly would have to look at when we're vetting the project, to make sure that it's definitely a need. Any ADA improvements are reimbursable. However, we just need to, that's something that we would definitely evaluate and give feedback to the agency during the vetting of the application.
I think we cover that in terms of harmonization.
Mm-hmm.
The adjacent property owners and the facility. Maybe if we approached it that way is harmonization of driveways for where the project's being built, is that eligible? That's kind of...
It could be, but we have to just take a closer look at it, because we've seen where it has been eligible. We've seen where it wasn't eligible, and it's due to the surrounding, the area, the surrounding, what's impacted. That's something that we definitely have to take a look at when we do our desktop reviews or we're out in the field.
But it has to be in the right of way, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you must be able to, and that's one of the things where, an instance where we saw where it wasn't eligible is because the agency had to go outside of the right of way to harmonize. So all work has to be within the local agency's right of way in order for it to be eligible or considered eligible.
Thank you. And a note for Tom, if you please schedule a pre-application meeting with us and we'll review the details to confirm.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the one-on-one meeting, the pre-application meeting is the appropriate platform where we can actually have a closer look and do a desktop review of the location together.
Great, thank you, Maya. So I do have another question. It's from Kershid Moyuden with Palm Beach County. Kershid, I'm going to allow you to talk. Please unmute yourself on your end.
Hi, everybody. How are you? Well, thank you so much for making life easier for everybody. The application that you guys developed is amazing. It's very good, very user-friendly, and incredible work went into it, and that shows. My question is, uh, for transportation alternative, you have 3.1 million and local initiative 20 million total. Those numbers, are they based on some state or federal formula, or it is entirely up to TPA board discretion how to allocate and how much to allocate?
Good morning, Kershid. This is Andrew at Palm Beach TPA. You are correct. So what you're seeing there for the surface transportation block grant programs, a lot of the links that we provide will go to those federal funding programs. And that is through the current FAST Act that just expired, but is extended by 1 year. So what we get is still projected based on those funding levels. So yes, we're still sort of operating under an assumption that, in 5 years' time, that we're still going to be receiving these $20 million per year to be using on local initiatives. That's still, to be seen coming up here in the future when they make a new federal funding bill in this next congressional calendar.
Does that answer his question?
Kershid, does that answer your question? You muted yourself.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. It does.
You're welcome. Okay, so my next question is from Arthur O'Berry. Arthur, I'm going to unmute you. Allow to talk. You can unmute yourself and speak now.
Hi, good morning. Sorry about that. Good morning, Jason and Maya. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, good morning.
I'm on the local initiative TA digital GIS map, and I have a question with respect to the layer federal aid eligible roadways network LI and the different color coding of roadways. Suppose there was a project in the Palm Beach County area that, well, it's not listed as one of those brown selected federal aid eligible LI roads. What type of other projects could a local agency pursue on other roads, other local roads?
Transportation alternatives.
Yeah, you could use the Transportation Alternatives program to implement projects on a local road.
And then also you can ask Maya about the other counties and the grant programs.
And there could be other programs and county programs that are available.
Maya, that's Maya.
See, let's see, Maya, would you know of any other programs for constructing projects on a local road that's not on a federal aid eligible? Or
Well, our federal programs, it would have to either be, it would have to be transportation alternative, unless, agencies can seek funding through they can seek appropriation or state program or a state grant program. We do have information on our statewide website under local programs. You can get to that particular web page from the resources that I have provided. As a follow-up, I will provide a link to that specific webpage to the TPA, so that it may be something that can be, put on the website or shared another way. But there are other grant opportunities. It's not many, maybe one or two avenues an agency can explore, but they all have their own requirements that must be met.
Thank you, Maya. This is Andrew again from the Palm Beach TPA. We pulled up on our map here. This is our other map that you can get it to from palmbeachtpa.org/map. This is a lot more layers on it, but I just wanted to pull it up to show you again the federally eligible network. And to answer your question again, for the two pots of money that we have here, really the only one available off the federally highway system for those non-motorized transportation projects is the transportation alternatives. And if you have a one-on-one with us for a pre-application meeting, we can always brainstorm on that. If it's something that can't be funded through here, how we could move that for you all.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, on the state road, if you had a project on the state road, there's the state road modifications program.
So I just had a question from CapTech Engineering. They did lower their hand. Do you want me to give you guys permission to, I'm giving you permission to speak, but unmute yourselves and you can ask your question. I see you have been raising your hand and putting it down. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me again?
Hi.
Hi, this is Dylan O'Berrican. I was just logged in twice.
Oh, okay. Never
I
mind.
just asked the question about the GIS map.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you for answering.
Are there any other questions?
Okay, you gotta turn back on.
So if that concludes, maybe can we put up our contact information one
Sure.
more time, just for everybody to have that information available before we conclude? This is being recorded live, so we'll post this on our website. You can review it, and we'll also post the presentation itself. And so you'll be able to review this presentation as well as the recording and the questions that have been answered. And please follow up with us if you have any additional questions. And I encourage you, if you have an idea in mind, a project that you'd like to propose, set up a pre-application meeting and bring that to us. And I can go over those dates again. That was so those pre-application meeting dates. There's several of them. It is November 3rd and 4th, 12th and 13th, and in December 1st. And there's about 5 time slots, 1 hour each for each of those days. So with that, I'd like to conclude, and if there's no more questions. Thank you, Maya, for providing information on the LAT program. And thank you, Alyssa, for providing information for the Transportation Alternatives Program. And that concludes the presentation. Thank you, and the workshop. Thank you for all attending.